If I handed you a 45-letter medical word right now, you would probably just assume you need, like, a decade of medical school to even pronounce it.
Oh, yeah, let alone understand what it actually
Right.
means.
You look at these terms on a lab report,
Yeah,
and it just feels like this massive wall designed to keep you out of your own healthcare.
totally. It's incredibly intimidating.
But what if I told you that the entire medical dictionary is actually just a Lego set?
A really, really old Lego set, yeah.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're taking a stack of medical terminology sources and extracting like a literal secret cheat code. It's this mental algorithm called putting it all together.
Which is such a great name for it.
It really is. And our mission today is to teach you this single four-step rule that lets you instantly decode almost any unfamiliar, terrifying diagnosis you've never seen before, entirely without a dictionary.
And to understand how this cheat code works, we really have to look at this strange intersection of ancient history and modern education.
Right, because the pieces of this language are incredibly old, aren't they?
Oh, ancient. I mean, physicians have been snapping these specific diagnostic terms together using Greek and Latin roots since the Hippocratic corpus in the 5th and 4th centuries BCE.
Wow, so we were talking thousands of years.
Exactly. And you also have the immense influence of Galen, the Roman-era physician in the 2nd century CE. Because their texts formed the foundation of Western medicine for over a millennium, their ancient Greek combining forms just became frozen in time.
You mean words like cardi for heart or ost for bone?
Yeah, exactly. Those became the permanent core building blocks of medical English.
See, I'm looking at these source texts, and it really makes me wonder why we needed to invent a new cheat code to teach us in the first place.
What do you mean?
Well, if the words have been exactly the same for 2,000 years, why didn't medical educators just, keep teaching it the old way? Like, 4 years of medical school seems like enough time to just absorb a dictionary through immersion.
Right. Well, immersion works great if you actually have 4 years. But in the second half of the 20th century, the U.S. experienced this massive, rapid expansion in allied health training.
Oh, like nursing schools and community colleges?
Yes, an absolute explosion of them. They were tasked with training literal armies of nurses, medical assistants, medical transcriptionists, and they had to do it fast.
Because the whole healthcare system was modernizing at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specialized clinics were opening everywhere, and these new professionals needed absolute fluency in medical terminology almost overnight.
And I mean, you can't just hand a nursing student a dictionary of 50,000 complex terms on a Monday and say, hey, be fluent by your clinical rotations on Friday.
No, you definitely can't. Rote memorization completely falls apart at that kind of scale. Educators realized they had this massive bottleneck.
So what do?
Well, as codified in foundational terminology texts from the 80s and 90s, like Daviel and Schaebner's The Language of Medicine, they basically weaponized a structural loophole.
A loophole.
Yeah. They realized most medical words are combinatorial. They aren't unique, standalone concepts at all.
Oh, they're modular, like the
Yeah.
Lego bricks we mentioned.
Exactly. They're built from a finite list of about maybe 1,500 to 2,000 word parts. So instead of forcing students to memorize an entire dictionary, educators just started teaching those basic pieces and one fixed reassembly rule.
And that is the putting it all together capstone concept. You just learn to run that specific program.
You got it.
Okay, so before we can run the algorithm, we have to open up the medical Lego kit and look at the pieces we're working with.
Right. The sources break this down into 3 main categories.
Let's start with the first one, which is the root. This carries the absolute core meaning of the word.
Yeah. And the root is almost always going to be a specific body part, a bodily substance, or a color.
So like we said earlier, cardi is the root for heart, and hepat is the root for liver.
Right. And osti is the root for bone.
Yeah.
You also have colors, like melon for black, which you see in terms like melanin or melanoma.
Makes sense. So then we have the second piece, the prefix.
Yep, the prefix is this small piece attached to the very front of the word, and prefixes basically function as modifiers.
They dictate things like location or number or timing.
Right, exactly, or degree. So hypo means below or deficient. Hyper means above or excessive.
And tachi means fast. So they basically just give context to that core root.
Exactly. And then the third block is the suffix, which is attached to the very end of the word.
And suffixes typically indicate a broader category, right? Like a
Mhm.
condition or a disease process, maybe a surgical procedure.
Or medical specialty, yeah. So atectomy means inflammation. Thectomy means surgical removal.
And pointology means the study of Katsky.
Got it. But there is one more component, and it honestly confuses beginners a lot because it isn't technically a block with a clinical definition.
Oh, the combining vowel,
Yeah.
which is almost always the letter O, right? I
Yes.
absolutely love the analogy the sources use for this. The combining vowel is essentially just linguistic Velcro
That's a perfect way to describe it.
because it carries absolutely zero clinical meaning. It doesn't change the diagnosis. It doesn't change the body part. It solely exists to make the word physically pronounceable by human vocal cords.
Right, because if you try to stick a root that ends in a consonant directly onto a suffix that begins with a consonant, it sounds like a car crash.
You literally can't say it smoothly. So you use that O Velcro to bridge the two Lego bricks together.
But, and this is key, if the suffix already starts with a vowel, you just peel the Velcro off and drop it. You don't need the phonetic glue anymore.
Right, like with the root Arthur, which means joint.
Exactly. It means the exact same thing, whether it appears as arthritis, where the Velcro is dropped because arthritis starts with an I, or arthroscopy, where the Velcro is kept to bridge the gap to the consonant in arthroscopy.
Okay, so let me try to use these pieces in the wild. If I see a term like gastroenterology, my instinct as a native English speaker is to just read it left to right.
Which is what everyone tries to do at first.
All right, so I'd go gastro is stomach, enter is intestines. Cytology is the study of. So stomach, intestine, study of. I mean, I'm already confused about how those even relate to each other in a sentence.
And that exact confusion is why you cannot read medical terminology like normal English prose.
It just doesn't work.
It really doesn't. When you read left to right, your brain is forced to juggle a handful of random body parts without actually knowing what is happening to them until the very last syllable.
Which brings us to the actual four-step algorithm.
Yes. Step 1, find and define the suffix. Step 2, find and define the prefix, if the word has one. Step 3, find and define the root, or roots.
And step 4, reassemble those definitions in their exact order suffix, then prefix, then root to form your working clinical definition. I have to push back on step 1 here, though. We are starting at the absolute end of the word and reading backward.
It feels weird, I know.
It feels incredibly counterintuitive, like why deliberately go in reverse?
Well, think about how English handles categorization. Suffixes usually name the broad classification of the subject.
Oh, I see.
Right, like, are we talking about a chronic disease? Are we discussing a highly invasive surgical procedure? Or is it just a field of academic study?
So reading the suffix first immediately establishes the stakes.
Exactly. It tells you exactly what kind of situation you're dealing with before you start filling in the specific organs or the severity modifiers.
Okay, establishing the category first makes a lot of sense, actually. So if you're listening to this, try doing this next one with me. Let's run the algorithm on the first example from the sources. Osteoarthritis.
Let's do it.
Okay, looking for my pieces. I see osteo, which is the root for bone. I see arthur, the root for joint. And I see hiatus, the suffix for inflammation.
Now run the sequence.
Okay, step 1, suffix first. Itis is inflammation. Step 2, prefix. There isn't one here.
Right, skip to step 3.
Step 3, the roots. Arthur is joint, osteo is bone. Step 4, I reassemble them in that exact order. Inflammation of a joint involving bone.
And that resulting phrase aligns beautifully with the actual clinical reality.
It really does.
Because osteoarthritis is this specific degenerative disease where the joint cartilage progressively breaks down, which eventually leads to friction and damage to the underlying bone itself.
And this just highlights the incredible precision built into this modular design.
Yeah.
Because if doctor just says arthritis, without that osteo root attached to the front, the algorithm translates that simply as inflammation of a joint.
Right, which is a massive, completely different umbrella term.
But snapping just one additional ancient Greek root onto the front narrows the entire clinical picture down to a specific disease mechanism.
It's an incredibly robust system for common diagnoses. But honestly, its true power becomes apparent when we push it to the extremes.
Like stress testing the algorithm.
Exactly. Let's look at the word electrocardiogram.
Okay, I'll run the steps. Electro is the root for electricity. Cardio is the root for heart. Adagram is the suffix, meaning a record or a written image.
Perfect. Suffix first.
A record. Prefix, none. Roots, electrical activity, heart. Put it all together. A record of the electrical activity of the heart.
And what's really fascinating about the specific word is that decoding it actually serves as a map to a specific moment in medical history.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Between 1901 and 1903, the Dutch physiologist Willem Einthoven invented the first practical mechanism for capturing this electrical activity.
Wait, he actually built something to do this?
He built this massive piece of equipment called a string galvanometer. It used a microscopic silvered quartz string suspended in a magnetic field.
That sounds intense.
It was. As the tiny electrical impulses from a patient's beating heart ran through the string, it would twitch. And Einthoven used a light source to cast a shadow of that twitching string onto moving photographic paper.
So he literally created a physical record of the heart's electricity.
He did. And because he was operating in the European scientific community of the time, he published his invention in German, naming it the electrocardiogram.
Oh, wait. Spelled with a K?
Spelled with a K, exactly.
Which perfectly explains something I've always wondered about. American hospitals still constantly use the abbreviation EKG instead of ECG, even though we spell it with a C in English.
Yeah, it's literally just a 100-year-old hangover from Einthoven's original German spelling.
That is amazing.
And his string galvanometer revolutionized cardiology so profoundly that he was actually awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1924.
So when you run the algorithm on electrocardiogram, you aren't just translating syllables, you're rapidly reverse engineering a Nobel Prize-winning invention from a century ago.
Exactly. It holds up perfectly.
Well, I want to take this one step further. If this rule it truly is a universal cheat code, let's test it against one of the longest words in the entire English dictionary.
Oh boy, I know it's coming.
Let me take a deep breath here. Newman ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
There it is.
Honestly, just looking at that string of 45 letters makes my eyes cross.
It is a notorious monster in terminology courses, for sure. But the context of this word is just as important as its length.
Yeah, the sources reveal this word was actually an intentional stunt.
It was.
It was coined in 1935 by Everett M. Smith, who was the president of the National Puzzlers League. He deliberately manufactured an artificially massive, absurd medical term just to force it into the major dictionaries.
And he succeeded in getting it published, but the stunt inadvertently proved a brilliant point about the algorithm.
Because it still works, doesn't it?
Exactly. Everett M. Smith wasn't speaking gibberish. He was just stacking an unusual amount of valid Lego bricks.
Yeah.
We can still run the exact same 4 steps on it.
Okay, let me isolate the pieces. Pneumano means lung. Ultra means beyond. Microscopic means extremely small.
Keep going.
Silico means silica, like sand or quartz. Volcano refers to volcanic rock. Coni is a root meaning dust. And osis is our suffix, meaning an abnormal condition.
Apply the sequence, suffix first.
Right, coniosis is an abnormal condition. Then I gather that massive pile of prefixes and roots. Lung, beyond extremely small, silica, volcanic dust.
And put it together.
An abnormal lung condition caused by inhaling extremely small volcanic silica dust.
Which perfectly describes a very real, well-documented category of occupational lung disease.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a specific, severe form of silicosis. The sheer length of the word does not break the foundational rule.
Because length simply means there are more Lego bricks on the table.
Exactly. The instruction manual for how they snap together never changes.
It's genuinely amazing to watch a 45-letter wall of text just neatly collapse into a coherent sentence like that.
It's very satisfying.
But, I mean, no system is completely bulletproof. If the algorithm works flawlessly on dictionary-breaking stunt words, where are its blind spots?
That's a really important question.
Because when a communication tool breaks down in a hospital setting, the consequences are usually dire.
Oh, absolutely. And terminology educators spend a significant amount of time highlighting the method's limitations.
What's the main one?
Well, the first limitation is structural. Some words simply do not decompose. You cannot run the algorithm on eponym.
Eponyms, like conditions named after people.
Right. Conditions named after the physician who discovered them or the patient who first presented with them. Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh, I see. There are no ancient Greek roots to separate there.
None. You just have to study the historical medical literature to know what Dr. Parkinson was observing.
And the sources also point out whole borrowed words, like terms lifted directly from Latin or Greek antiquity in their entirety without any modular construction.
Right. The classic example there is cancer, which is literally just the Latin word for crab.
You can't exactly break crab into a prefix and a suffix.
Exactly. And the historical context there is wild. Hippocrates examined the swollen, radiating veins surrounding a malignant tumor and thought they physically resembled the legs of a crab digging into the tissue.
That is so deeply unsettling.
It is. We also have virus, which was just the broad Latin term for poison or a slimy liquid.
So those structural exceptions just require plain old memorization.
They do. But the area where the system becomes actively dangerous, where a tiny misunderstanding can cascade into a major patient safety event, actually involves the prefixes.
Oh, the sources highlight a terrifying, well-documented category of medical error here. It's rooted in a one-letter disaster.
Yes, the confusion between hypo and hyper.
Because hypo translates to below normal or deficient.
Yeah.
Hyper translates to above normal or excessive.
Right. Clinically, they represent near total opposites. But phonetically and visually, they are separated by a single, easily obscured letter.
I mean, put yourself in the shoes of a tired nurse at 3 in the morning. You're taking a verbal handoff in a chaotic, noisy hallway, or you're trying to decipher a hastily scribbled chart note.
Or even just glancing at a smudge on a computer monitor.
Exactly.
And if a clinician misreads hypoglycemia, which is dangerously low blood sugar, as hyperglycemia, dangerously high blood sugar, the prescribed treatments are inverted.
Which is a disaster.
A total disaster. Administering insulin to a patient who is already severely hypoglycemic will drive their blood sugar down even further.
Wow.
Yeah. That single misread vowel can literally trigger a fatal coma. It is a matter of life and death hinging entirely on whether you heard an O or an air.
It really makes you realize why medical transcription requires such immense precision.
Absolutely.
But beyond the immediate physical dangers, the sources also outline a second, more philosophical limitation. It's considered the biggest ongoing debate in terminology education.
The etymology versus usage gap.
Yes.
See, when you successfully execute the 4 steps, you generate an etymological definition. You are literally decoding the historical origin of the word's parts.
Right, but language is deeply organic.
Exactly. As centuries pass, clinical usage narrows, societal biases interfere, and medical science fundamentally evolves.
So the literal translation of the ancient Greek roots does not always reflect the modern clinical reality.
Often it doesn't at all. The sources provide a really jarring case study to illustrate this gap with the word hysteria.
Let's run our algorithm on it. We isolate the Greek root hystera, which means uterus. We isolate the suffix area, which indicates a condition. Suffix first, a condition of the uterus.
Yet, when doctors historically diagnosed a patient with hysteria, they were describing a psychological or neurological presentation.
They were documenting symptoms like severe anxiety, fainting, breathlessness, emotional distress, and almost exclusively in women.
Right.
Which begs the question, what possible connection does the uterus have to fainting spells?
Well, decoding the word accurately doesn't lead you to modern neurology. It leads you straight into a 2,000-year-old Hippocratic pseudo-medical theory.
The wandering womb theory, right?
Yes. Ancient Greek physicians genuinely believed that these psychological symptoms were caused by a wandering womb. They posited that the uterus was physically detaching and moving around inside the body, placing pressure on other organs and causing immense distress.
It's just wild. So by running the algorithm perfectly, you uncover a deeply flawed, aggressively sexist piece of medical history.
And the tragedy of that etymology is how deeply it entrenched subconscious bias into patient care.
Because it lasted for so long.
It did. That flawed ancient physiology stayed embedded in formal psychiatric practice for centuries. Hysterical neurosis was wielded as a formal diagnostic category to dismiss women's health concerns well into the modern era.
The American Psychiatric Association did not officially retire the term until the publication of the DSM-3 in 1980.
Yeah, think about that.
1980, that was less than 50 years ago.
It's shocking. And this gap between history and reality is exactly why educators stress that step 4 of the algorithm comes with a massive caveat.
Right, you never just reassemble the definition and walk away assuming you perfectly understand the disease.
Never. You have to treat that decoded etymology as a working hypothesis. You translate the historical meaning, and then you must check that hypothesis against current clinical practice.
So the algorithm is the first step of understanding a diagnosis, never the final one.
Exactly. It's a compass that points you in the right direction, but you still have to actually read the map to understand the terrain you are standing on.
Okay, so we've covered ancient Greek theories, 1980s psychiatry, and 20th century nursing classrooms. But we need to talk about why this deep dive matters for you, the listener, navigating the world today.
Yes, absolutely.
If you aren't enrolled in a medical transcription program, why is this 4-step decoding tool so vital for your daily life?
Well, because it addresses a massive systemic crisis in health literacy.
Let's talk about the data on that.
In 2003, the Department of Education conducted the National Assessment of Adult Literacy, and the findings were staggering. They discovered that only 12% of adults in the United States possessed proficient health literacy.
12%. That means nearly 9 out of every 10 patients lack the foundational vocabulary to accurately interpret the medical language printed on their own prescription bottles.
Or their surgical consent forms or their hospital discharge papers.
And that profound vulnerability was documented in 2003. The healthcare landscape has shifted dramatically since then, hasn't it?
Oh, completely. It culminated in a major legislative overhaul, the 21st Century Cures Act. Specifically, the information blocking rules that took full effect in 2021.
Right. This law fundamentally changed the way we interact with our own biological data.
How so?
Well, before the Cures Act, your doctor would write clinical notes, and those notes generally stayed locked in the provider's proprietary files. If you wanted to know what was in them, you scheduled a follow-up appointment.
Right, and the clinician sat down with you, read the file, and translated the dense jargon into accessible English.
Exactly. But the Cures Act mandated data transparency. Under the information blocking provisions, healthcare providers are legally required to push those raw, unfiltered clinical notes directly to your electronic patient portal.
And often they push them the minute the lab results are finalized.
Which creates a very modern, very common scenario.
Yeah.
You're sitting on your couch, your phone pings with an email notification from your patient portal, and you open the app to find a wall of raw clinical shorthand.
Yeah, you're suddenly staring at abbreviations like AKI, which stands for acute kidney injury.
Or CHF exacerbation, meaning congestive heart failure.
Or a terrifying note like ROPE, which means the doctor is trying to rule out a pulmonary embolism.
And you are reading this alone, in your living room, without a clinician present to translate the severity of what you're looking at.
The protective, sometimes paternalistic buffer of the doctor's translation has just been totally removed.
You're now expected to be an active, informed participant in a highly complex system that, frankly, still defaults to a specialized 2,000-year-old language.
Right. Which means this decoding tool suffix, prefix, root, reassemble is no longer just a clever parlor trick to help nursing students pass a Friday quiz.
It's become a mandatory survival skill for any modern patient attempting to comprehend their own medical chart.
It gives you the mechanical leverage to actually break down the barrier of professional jargon. It transforms an alienating wall of text into a series of manageable, distinct components.
Though the sources make it clear that decoding a term only provides a hypothesis, not a substitute for medical advice. You do still need to call your doctor.
Yes, please still call your doctor.
But having that hypothesis gives you the footing to actually start that conversation as an equal participant.
Absolutely. It puts the power back in your hands.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to explore on your own. The next time your phone pings with new lab results and you log into your patient portal, only to be confronted by a terrifying 30-letter word, what if you stopped viewing it as a brick wall designed to keep you out?
Yeah.
What if you viewed it as a simple Lego set, just waiting for you to pull it apart piece by piece? And if medical jargon, one of the oldest, most notoriously complex vocabularies on Earth, can be systematically dismantled with a single reassembly rule, what other intimidating expert languages in your life, whether in finance, technology, or law, are actually just modular kits once you discover the secret code for how they're built?